Gore, the winner in Florida.
All along, George W. Bush had been telling everybody, I'm going to carry Florida.
Florida has been prematurely called.
Not at all. I'm upbeat. I just don't believe we've got enough evidence to be able to call the state. We're actually counting the votes.
On behalf of the State Elections Canvassing Commission, and in accordance with the laws of the state of Florida, I hereby declare Governor George W. Bush the winner of Florida's 25 electoral votes.
Florida goes to Mr. Bush. Let's stop and absorb that for a second. Florida is going to go for Mr. Bush.
The whole system is on trial. If the vote is off in Palm Beach County, what about the vote in Iowa? What about the vote in Mississippi? What about the vote in Alabama?
They try to turn people away, and it's not right. We need to stop all of this. No recall. We need a re-election in Florida tonight.
Please don't over-exaggerate the incidences that, the accusations.
I truly believe in my heart that if all of the votes had been counted in Florida, and if all of the African Americans had had an opportunity to cast a vote, George Bush would have never been president of the United States. We wouldn't be involved in a war in Iraq. And the makeup of the Supreme Court would be different.
Around 7 o'clock on the day of the elections, that was when I got the first phone call telling me that something untoward was happening in Florida.
I was on my way to vote. There was a roadblock, and there were approximately 5 highway patrolmen there, and they stopped me. He asked me for my driver's license.
I present my voter's registration to the lady, and with my driver's license, she said my name wasn't on the paper.
What do you mean I can't vote? She said, you have been sent an absentee ballot, and therefore you can't vote.
The supervisor wanted to talk to me. We have you listed as a convicted felon. You have been purged from our system. You've lost all your civil rights.
One person, one vote. One person, one vote. Everybody matters. Every vote matters. Keep hope alive.
I was slingshotted into slavery. That's how I felt.
The suppression of the black vote is a key indicator. If we're stopped at the ballot booth, I think that the prospects for democracy surviving are quite dim.
The NAACP are calling on the Justice Department to launch a civil rights movement.
I don't believe the American people, even to this day, really understand what happened in Florida 2000. At every precinct, there's something called the voter list. And if your name is not on the voter list, then you're not allowed to vote.
5 months before the 2000 election, Jeb Bush, governor of Florida, and Katherine Harris, his Secretary of State, ordered the removal of 57,000 voters from the voter rolls. Supposedly these were felons, criminals not allowed to vote. In fact, 97% were innocent.
And it just so happened that most of them on that list were black and Latino.
I'm not guessing because I got a hold of the computer files. Next to the names are the voters' race.
Ms. Harris, you're aware of allegations that a private firm that you contracted with produced a list of purported felons who were taken off the voter registration list?
Yes, I am aware.
And you became aware of the concerns raised about the legitimacy of the lists that were provided by the private firm?
Yes, I became aware.
And what action did you take in response to becoming aware of those concerns?
Again, I'm going to refer that to Mr. Roberts, and that he's in charge of those day-to-day operations.
Specific actions did you take, Mr. Roberts?
In putting the data together, there were
identified by the supervisors of elections a significant number of persons who had not committed felonies that were identified on the list.
Excuse me, Ms. Harris, when did you become aware of the concerns about the list provided by the firm?
Again, because our division director would have made me aware, brought this to my attention. I'll have to refer to him because I'm not certain of the specific date.
Okay, I'm trying to move this along, Mr. Roberts. You're not helping me out because I'm not getting specific.
I'm not trying to stall you. I'm trying to.
But you're not giving me the information we're asking. Please do.
It was important to establish for the record the role of all of the players in this debacle of democracy.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this. The duties to carry out the election itself are not the responsibility of the governor.
So we understand for the record that as it relates to the November 7th election, you had no authority and no responsibilities and took no actions with regard to the election.
In the preparation for the election?
Yes.
No, again, the Secretary of State and the 67 supervisors of election were responsible for that, and they carried out their duties.
Supervisors are in a precarious position here. We have a law that says that a felon cannot be on your rolls. And if I remove that person, you know, from information that I've received, and I've done it improperly, then I'm violating a person's right to vote. The law said that they had to verify this, but they were not taking it seriously. And, you know, that could destroy a person's life. I received a letter saying that I was a convicted felon at my office. And I am not a convicted felon.
Thank you very much.
I actually don't feel that the stories of disenfranchisement were that well covered by the media. There was a great deal of attention to punch card ballots and hanging chads. There was a great deal of attention to the political machinations. There was even a great deal of coverage for the soap opera litigation. But the stories of individuals who were aggrieved by what went on, that sort of went to the back burner and then ultimately just fell out of the story altogether.
Because there was no debate on the floor of the U.S. Congress, one congresswoman, Cynthia McKinney, decided to hold her own investigative hearings in Atlanta, Georgia, the home of ChoicePoint, the company that created this list, and she dragged in the executives of the company to answer questions.
DBT was instructed to use very broad rules. These rules were supplied by the state when comparing names on the list.
What ChoicePoint admitted to us at the town hall meeting was that they weren't looking for exact matches.
Florida officials only wanted an 80% match on the last name. Now, the result of that was to capture the names of people with similar names.
If John Smythe was the convicted felon and John Smith was on the voter roll, well, John Smith became a convicted felon.
DBT told state officials that the rules for creating this list would mean a significant number of people who are not convicted felons would be included on the list.
And the state of Florida said, well, give it to us anyway because we want that comprehensive, inaccurate list. ChoicePoint was paid $4 million. Were you supposed to verify the list?
No, ma'am, we were not.
So who exactly told you to provide a list that wasn't verified?
The state of Florida through their Division of Elections.
Okay. For something as precious as the right to vote, you would think that they would want to know that the person they're banning from the voting booth is the actual person who committed a felony. After wrongly identifying 8,000 Florida voters with Texas misdemeanor records as felons, it supplied a revised list.
Texas did not inform DBT that misdemeanors were on the list. They said it was a list of felons.
You got from the state of Texas a list of those who could not vote in Florida. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And who in Florida told you to provide those names?
It would have been the Division of Elections.
I just want to make it clear to the folks who are in here, if you think you thought what you thought you heard, and you don't believe that that's exactly what you heard, well, let me make it plain to you that that's exactly what you heard. What you heard is that highfalutin folks in Florida and Texas got together and decided that they were going to devise a way to make a list that would deny black people in Florida the right to vote and therefore produce the result of a stolen election, which is what we saw now. I know I'm supposed to be nonpartisan when I'm in an official capacity, but it appears to me that that's exactly what happened.
Florida was an apartheid election, a Jim Crow election. That's what happened.
How do you make up for something like this? Do you, to George's point, feel any sense of responsibility for what happened in Florida? When you have a situation like Florida, it tends to discourage people from participating. People start saying, it doesn't matter. Why should I vote? My vote is not going to count.
The problem with this is that it was so in your face. We're going to steal the election. We're going to take over the levers of government. And there's nothing that the American people can do about it.
Secretary Cheney and I are honored and humbled to have won the state of Florida, which gives us the needed electoral votes to win the election. We will therefore undertake the responsibility of preparing to serve as America's next president and vice president. Bush, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office.
The Florida experience was traumatic. When you think about it, the right to vote is key to the whole constitutional democracy that sets us apart from any other country on the planet.